What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Bass 365 live cast. Pretty excited. We've been on the road a lot. I think 3 weeks straight. Just got back from Lake Travis on Thursday, kind of in recovery mode, and leave again tomorrow for Lake Eufaula for a pro circuit event. A lot of things have happened since our last Bass cast. Jacob Wheeler won another trophy. Imagine that. We've got a very special guest host tonight that I think is going to make this thing extremely interesting. So without any more delay, we're going to bring him on, the man himself. Lurch, what's happening, brother?
Oh, man, I'm in a good mood. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you're in a good mood because I've seen you in a bad mood. And
no, you have not. It's few and far between. I only have one bad day a year, and to say that you were there, I doubt it. And
I've seen it 3 times already this year.
And you haven't hit my bad day yet. You're in a good spot. You're in a good spot.
Man, wow. So we met at the first Bass Pro Tour, I guess, and kind of instantly hit it off a little bit. And
we're more than Facebook friends, that's for sure.
If you guys don't know Lurch, he's funny. I mean, it's no doubt it's funny, and brings some, I don't know how to even explain it, but to listen to him call the anglers' names out, it's exciting. He gets the adrenaline flowing for the anglers, the people watching. It's just exciting stuff. Can you just give us a little background, on your history there, Lurch?
Oh my God, it's a long story. You might have to have a separate one from that, but let's see. I broke my back in 2000. My buddy said, "Do you want to judge freestyle motocross?" I knew nothing about it. So he said, lie to the guy. I did. I became a judge for freestyle motocross. In turn, I played around on the microphone, got discovered to be an announcer. So I announced freestyle motocross from 2001 to 2007. In 2004, a good buddy of mine, Robbie Floyd, said Bass was looking for a guy to announce their Central Opens. I sent him a reel, got that job. And then that ran through like 2008, 2009. Did Monster Jam, Supercross, Motocross, PAA, and now with Major League Fishing and still doing some outdoor motocross announcing. So high energy, low maintenance is probably my deal. And yeah, that's it. And I'm a plumber during the week. So all those blue collar workers that are watching right now, hey buddy, I was up at 4:30 this morning and putting the pipe in.
Wow. That's quite impressive. I didn't know you did the PAA stuff. That's interesting.
Yeah. It was fun. It was right after I had the contract sort of ran out with Bass and got picked up by them for 2 or 3 seasons. And then Boyd Duckett got in touch with me and said, "Hey, your name's in the running to possibly be the host for Major League Fishing." So off I went to Amistad when I got the job and been with him ever since.
Awesome. Well, I know I enjoy listening to you in the morning. It gets me fired up.
Why do you like this voice in the morning?
That's it. It wakes you up. It will.
I've actually done some people's ringtones and alarm clocks before.
I don't see how you even talk after a morning of that. But hey, we got a special guest. We kind of been talking about it all week. I'm excited to bring this guy on, and I'm gonna kind of let you two go at it, and I'm just gonna step out of the way and see what happens exciting. So with again, appreciate this guy joining us. We had a lot of requests for him. So here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Jacob Wheeler. What's going on, Jacob?
What about it, guys?
What's happening,
brother?
Oh, just hanging out, man. Just been running around here at the house and getting ready to go to Harris Chain. We have an event coming up down there, and so got to leave next week. But been a little bit busy. Been doing a few things. Actually, got to fly to Academy here real soon, and then I have to actually was hunting with Andy Morgan this morning. I was actually turkey hunting this morning with my boy Andy Morgan. So it's been we've been having a little fun, having a little play, a little bit of business, a little bit of it all.
Well, Jacob, thank you again for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to join us. Lurch and I have kind of talked about what we wanted to go over tonight. Mm-hmm. I'm going to kind of monitor these questions over here. I'll jump in if I see a need to. Like if y'all get like way out of control, I might shut it down.
Well, it's not like we're going to blow a tie rod with a flat on a trailer swerving all over the road. We'll try to get between lines.
Hold on now.
All right, well, look, y'all go on and do your thing. I'm gonna sit back and enjoy the show.
Jacob, we got a couple options here. We can start at the front and work backwards, or start at the back and work front. Which way do you want to go?
Ooh. I mean, I'm gonna let you take it because I know you understand. I would. I mean, let's go forward. Let's go start at the front and go forward. It's fine. Let's keep it straight and narrow. Tonight we'll keep it straight and narrow. Next time we're gonna go backwards.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to when we actually met. I might have to pull up the picture, and I think that was at the Bassmaster Junior World Championship. Was that not?
Back.
Yeah, you said that. Where did you end up at that one? I mean, we're starting there. I mean, we could go back even
so Lurch and I have known each other for a long time. So I'm talking. So I was 14 years old, Lake Norman. I was with Jason Quinn. And I'm going
to pull up the picture, but keep going.
We won the Pro-Am, Quinn and I, and then I forget the young the kid that was in the older age group. We won the Pro-Am on Norman, and then I ended up getting like sixth or top 10 in the tournament. You know, Bradley Roy ended up winning that tournament.
Yes. You ready for this?
I'm ready. Oh, oh my gosh.
Yes.
I'm just.
Well, you said it to me. You said it. Yeah, it was Joey Nania.
Joey Nania won the championship. So that I know exactly. So that one.
That was at Wiley. That was my first classic I'd ever been to. That was the first event I ever announced.
Yeah, so that was the first one. That one was actually up at Onondaga, the picture right there.
Okay. So that would have been a year later, maybe?
Like 2 years later.
Okay.
So we've known each other for a long. I mean, I've known you for half my life.
All right. So, at what point from there did you realize that you were going to sort of mold into this professional bass fisherman?
You know, I've always had the confidence that that's what I was going to do, but you know, you always think something, and you know, there's obviously you hear of, oh, it's a pipe dream, or this is, you know, something that you can't necessarily do. Not many people make it to that point. And so I had a lot of people that probably doubted, but I had a lot of people that really pushed me to like fish and like, dude, you're good enough to make it if you can just work hard. And so I would just say I would say I've always had the dream, like even early on, like first, second grade, I've always had the dream of being a professional angler, but not until like I really believed it when I was like 16 years old. I really believed that I was a professional angler. So there was like a difference, you know what I'm saying?
You know, I heard a saying once that sort of progressed me into the announcing field. Is somebody told me, if people say you can do it, you can. But until you say you will do it, then you will. So it's all, I really think it's a mindset as far as like,
absolutely.
You know, a lot of people are patting you on the back and saying, you can. But until you say, you know what, I can and I will, I think that is really where the traction gets going.
I would have to agree with you on that. That's something that there's a mindset, you know, no matter what, I think it all comes down to work ethic.
Oh, absolutely.
It all comes
down
to
work. And that's with anything.
That's with anything. If you're going to be successful with anything in life, you have to work for it. Yeah. And I mentioned this several times on my channel on YouTube, and I talk about this. Listen, people always see the end result. They see where you're at right now. They see where I'm at, where I'm in my career. They see you at this peak, but they don't see everything behind there, all the sacrifices, the days sleeping in your truck for endless amounts of time, grabbing power from a hotel room because you couldn't afford, buying $1 McChicken for dinner because that's all you had is $1.07 to pay for that. They don't see all that. And there was a lot of sacrifices that had to happen before it even got close to where it's at now. And, I think there's a lot of that. I think that's the biggest thing that I want a lot of these young anglers to understand is like, or just young people in general is like, no matter what you do, it's going to be a deal that you got to work hard and you're going to have bad dips. You're going to have, it's going to be one of those deals. You're not going to have everything go right, but how bad do you really want it?
Okay, we told Ricky we're going to try to stay between the lines. I'm going to put it in the ditch just a little bit right here. What do you think fans think is the biggest misconception of a professional angler? I mean, some people think you just walk into Academy and grab what you want off the shelves and thank you, I'm Jacob Wheeler and I'm out. But what do you think is the biggest misconception of the lifestyle?
I would say definitely that, just because you have partners that you work with sponsors, that was definitely high on the list of like, oh yeah, you just roll up into this or that. But I would also say like that I think a lot of people talk about how, just because you have $5,000 in electronics, $10,000 in electronics, you're going to go out there and catch these fish.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. Like I grew up fishing, John boat with a 40 horse on it. And, the thing is, I see a lot of people make excuses, for, oh man, I can't do this, can't do that. You can,
Right.
You can make it work. So I would say electronics are a huge player in our sport, but I would also say that like, it's a level playing for most of the anglers out there professionally.
Right.
Now, you go back and I would say that's the biggest.
They all know their craft and what can help them. Yeah.
Just because you have 12 or 15,000 or 20,000 dollars with electronics does not mean you're going to catch them.
What?
No, it's not. Yeah.
All right. So then it was 2012 Forest Wood Cup Championship, 21 years of age. And we'll press the fast forward a little bit. Let's get into recent years. 2017 Challenge Cup champion. Then you move into 19. 19 was a huge year for you. It was another Challenge Cup, General Tire World Championship, and then you ended up. Was it stage 7?
I think stage
Table Rock.
Table Rock. Mm-hmm.
Yep, on the Bass Pro Tour. So, did you feel a flip in your career, or has there been successes that we're not acknowledging between, say, that 2012 and when we get up to the 2019?
I would say 2012 I won 2011 I won the All-American. That really jump-started my career. 2012 I won the Forest Wood Cup, which $500,000 at 21 years old, absolutely, and that was huge. It was like a boom, boom.
Yep.
You're 20 years old, you're 21. Now I'm all of a sudden like professional status, even though it's fishing the tour. Now you're looked at as one of those guys,
and that's one of those coveted trophies, awards that so many people have fished for 30 years, even maybe advance to that arena, say the Classic or the Forest Wood Cup. And then you win at such a young age.
Yeah, no one's ever won 2. So no one's there still to this day never won 2. So it was like a deal, like winning 1 Forest Wood Cup that jump started my career. I would say that there's just a learning curve in general. Like in professional bass fishing, it took me a while to understand like what I was doing wrong throughout practice, my mental side and my
okay.
So like I would go into a tournament and I would be like, man, I just got to get a $10,000 check. I got to get a check. And when I caught, so say I thought 12 pounds a day was going to get paid. Well, when I caught 13 pounds a day 1, and then I caught another 12 pounds a day 2, oh, I got a check. Oh, heck yeah, I got a check. And I would see myself like just ease off a little bit, like not like it was like my goal to get a check, and that was like really good, but I wouldn't push through, like, and I wouldn't like force, like, man, you can make a top 10. Hey man, you can try to win this thing, sort of those things. So as my career went on, like 2014, I believe,
was that the 2 bass?
Yeah, so I won a Bass Fest event here, and then I won an event, here at Chickamauga. And that was a big thing because then I was like another confidence booster. Fishing against Kevin, Skeet, all those guys that I'm fishing against today, I had that was a huge confidence booster to be fishing against the greats in the sport.
Right.
Ike and Ellie, all these guys that I looked up to, Evan Evers, to win that at, I think I was 23-ish, somewhere in there.
I wasn't doing the same things as you at 23, just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit crazy. So that was the start of it all. Then jumping into the BBT, in fishing and winning the first, BBT the first season, on tour. It was like, man, like this is all coming together. I had a second place in Classic that year. I had a second place at Porosnik out at Sharon Harris. And so it was like, man, I was staying consistent. And I think that's the biggest thing in fishing is you have to, obviously, the more top tens you make, the more opportunities you're going to have to win.
Right.
And so I think that's always, you always try to be up there and just give yourself an opportunity. And I think that point definitely started the trend of making the adjustments to, like, rather than just fishing for a top 50, I would say even more so like 17, I would say it started. Like now I'm fishing for a top 10 to have an opportunity to win.
Do you think that mentality of saying, just want to catch fishing for finances rather than fishing for fish, do you think that mentality recently has changed in both your practice and on water competition?
I don't know if it really, I think back then it was probably financial because I came up in a background.
You didn't want those $1.99 chicken nuggets. No.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to go ahead and grab that McDouble. So I think that definitely was a major player in the first few years of my career because I was worried about, man, I got to get a check. But I think that it's more so just came to the point when you get comfortable where you're at in life and you have such a great support system, you just worry about performing. And so I think that's really where it's come more than anything is the mental side of it's very important, but then it's also sort of a deal that at the end of the day, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about like, hey, you always want to win. You get a little taste of some victory.
Oh yeah.
Hey, let's bring that back. Let's bring that back one more time. And so you're always trying to get to that next level. And I think that's also just fishing against some of these guys that we fish against throughout the years. You have to catch them. You have to catch them because these guys are going to say push you to become better. So you have to make those adjustments. And the score tracker, I'm able to see a lot of the things. Like, hey, I'm really making a bad decision right here because they're obviously biting. And I need to go make a rotation on some of my other stuff because this is not panning out how I thought it was.
You had 2020 you had the super tournament win, Tackle Warehouse, and then backed it up. I think it was stage 1 that you won in 2020. Mm-hmm. Now let's move into the 2021, the Berkeley Stage 2 Austin, presented by Mercury. Bobby Lane and you in the championship. Let's rewind to just championship day. You're up against 9 other anglers. Before you even took in the water, who do you think was going to be the thorn in your side, or who was going to be the hardest to beat?
It's hard to tell because you don't know what somebody got on throughout the knockout round or what they were holding back. There's always a great poker player never just, shows his hand and like, here you go. So I think there's always that uncertainty of, who's been really strong throughout the week from the weights, but I definitely would have put Bobby Lane at the top of that list just for the fact of he won the knockout round. He got on a little bit of a roll, and it seemed like he was on the deal that his third period was really strong. My first period was really good. My second period was okay throughout the week, and then my third period I started to struggle.
You did struggle in the third in all your rounds.
The third was just one of those deals for me that the area of the lake that I was fishing, it didn't seem to be – they just seemed to stop biting. A lot –
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
catch them.
Oh, there we go.
There you can hear?
Yeah, I got it.
Sorry, I got you. So there was a lot of guys that didn't catch them up there during the knockout round in that third period. The first day we had cloudy conditions. It sort of prolonged bites. We had that big front coming through. Yep. It changed everything. So that you throw out the window. But so I would say Bobby Lane was number one because I knew at the end of the day he had that bite. he had figured something out, and he was going to be pushing in that last period, and that was probably going to be his best.
You know, Bobby, a past Challenge Cup champion and former general title world champion. So I mean, it was sort of like a heavyweight fight between you two, even though there were 8 other guys in the field, and even MDJ. When we talked when I gave you the trophy, I was like, "Hey, I made it up to third." You're like, "No way!" I think you were so focused. Exactly that score tracker. Besides Bobby Lane, I did it matter to you?
I didn't know Mark was that close. I mean, I obviously after the fact, we had dinner that night and grabbed a bite to eat, and I got a rundown of exactly what went down. I'm like, holy smokes! So I was so like I just got an update on Bobby. So like obviously, the most stressful point in that whole day was towards the end.
Oh, but you knew that was coming because your third period was tough.
Which I knew it was going to come down the pipe. Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know, my whole thing was, my dilemma was, do I stick to what I'm doing or do I go finesse? But the problem with the finesse tactics were 90% of my bites on the finesse stuff were non-scorables. So
right.
with a short amount of time where like the vibrating jig in the top water, 90% of my bites were scorables or better, which is a really good quality fish. So I felt like if I got a bite, they were going to be the right size fish to win the tournament. And I truly thought it was going to take 30 plus pounds to win, 30 and a half, somewhere in there. So when at 28 something, where I 28.11, I think is what I had at like with 35 minutes to go and it was up 8 pounds. I'm like, listen, yeah, we're up 8 pounds, but Bobby's breathing down my neck. I know he's going to come after it, and we have to catch at least one more to make sure we're locked in. And I just never had the bite. Now, the craziest thing was that last 2 minutes, I literally
come on.
I mean, that was pretty. And I want to say it was stressful because I don't look at things stressful. I look at them more so like I have to catch one. I had my own destiny in my own. I had my destiny in my own hands. If I generate a bite, I win.
Right.
If I generate another 3-4 pound bite, I win. So all my mindset is not, oh, Bobby, don't catch another fish. It's Jacob, catch a freaking 3-4 pounder and win this thing.
You're fishing to win and not fishing to not lose. And I think there's a difference. I really think there's a difference.
100%. If I'd have picked up a shaky head or a wacky worm, then I'm in the position where I'm like, oh, I'm just trying to hold on.
You're right.
Now, I'm not saying I couldn't have done that and maybe would have generated a bite, but I was putting myself in a position where I felt like if I got that bite, and I felt very confident I would get a bite, that I was going to generate the right kind of bite and put that fish in the boat and ultimately win the tournament.
Would a younger Jacob been sitting there and going, oh, if I wouldn't have missed that one in the first period, oh, I should have gone there. Would you be spinning yourself out if you weren't to the maturity level you are as a professional athlete right now?
I would have to say yes. I would say you learn as you go. And I would say that for me personally, I would say that I would have probably got a little bit. I've always had a pretty good like confidence level on the water. But I would say earlier on in my career, I would have been more down on myself.
The woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Yes. You sit there and like, oh man, I hooked a 5-pounder and I come off on the dock and I had this big one bite in my top water, didn't get it. And I'm already making excuses of why I did not win. Right. Rather than like, let's go catch one. Like I don't care about what's happened in the past.
Yep.
All I'm worried about is what I can control, and that's the future and catching a fish. So that's a huge deal. Yeah, I definitely would say that is for sure a true statement.
Watching you through all these years with Major League Fishing, sometimes when you go quiet on the score tracker, it's not because you can't catch them. You're actually practicing graphing. Was any of that in play this week, or did you know it was going to be a certain style and graphing would not help?
I know I really fished hard to try to find them offshore after I figured out that pattern in the first period. And knowing that it was so strong, I knew if I found one place offshore, which is typically better in the afternoon, I knew I would probably have a very, very, very good opportunity to win. I did not anticipate the opportunity, an easy win. I wouldn't say easy. I figured if I could mesh the two together,
You knew you had to get out of the blocks fast.
I knew that I knew I would get out of the blocks pretty fast. I knew I probably would have a chance of leading after period one. But if I could put something with that, I felt very confident that I would win. And I never did throughout the knockout round after having a really good first period knockout round, qualifying through and pretty much having enough, in the first period, at 21 pounds in the first period. I was like, okay, now let me go fish around in between stuff, 6 to 8 foot stuff. These fish are trying to pull out too. And I never found a group of fish. I caught a couple, and I caught one squirrel, really nice, like 3.5 pounder, but that was it. So I come to the point where I'm like, all right, I probably need to stick to what I'm doing. And that's really when I was like, all right, I'm all in on what I'm doing.
Right.
I've sort of tried several other things.
Too late to change, or just you had enough confidence to say, I'm good. I could be great on the next cast.
No, I would say it was more of understanding where I was at and like understanding like I've tried the finesse game down the lake a little bit. I've tried up the river, and I've tried what I want to do. And so that was the knockout round. That's the elimination round. And then you get to the championship round. And I'm like, I've not locked into one deal the whole day except for the first day of competition. And so I'm like, let me just lock into what I was doing. Let me stick to the game plan, make a progression through a top water, vibrating jig, white jig, swim jig, just do my thing. And then I feel like I'll have an opportunity because I was ultimately realizing the stuff that I wanted to, stuff that I thought they might get to, they weren't there yet. So the docks and the pattern that I had was the best opportunity that I had, I felt like, to win the event, which that's why I stuck with what I had going on.
I saw an Instagram post, you, family, friends, celebrating your victory. Have you had a chance to watch that championship round? And if you have, did you learn anything, or were you taken back by like, oh, why didn't I see that?
I don't even want to go through that again.
No, it's done. It's done.
It's done. We have the trophy here at the house, but I'm sure I'll watch it eventually.
Right.
But rather than spending 5 minutes an hour watching that championship round right now, I'll probably watch in the off season.
Gotcha.
I'd rather focus on Harris Chain and keep on moving. And that's sort of always how I am. Like, I try to enjoy the win, obviously, because you just don't know when your last one's going to be, or your next one's going to be. And so I try to enjoy them. But at the same point in time, I tend to like, all right, here's the next task at hand.
Right.
Let's get this figured out.
Yeah, because I think personally I would be like, what did I miss? How did this guy catch him? I think I would, but that's me. I'm like, I want to learn from. Not that you had any mistakes. Obviously, you won $100,000.
Yeah,
and you're sitting second in points, only 1 point behind Bobby Lane. So life is good. Life is good. Let's talk about stage number 3. A week and a half away, and some anglers, Florida, love it. Other anglers are like, well, I'm fighting for 60th place because I do terrible every time at Florida. Where do you feel you're at with Florida, Harris Chain?
I've only been to the Harris Chain like a couple days in my career. Not really fished a whole lot. I've actually fished it one day. I've ran around it and sort of seen a little bit of what it had to offer. But I like the way it sets up. I like some of the things. I don't know how it's going to actually fish. The biggest thing is there's multiple different lakes. And the problem is with Florida is we typically go there in the springtime, January, February, March. Going there this time of year without having all these cold fronts with the Florida strain bass, it should make those weights go up a considerable amount. So I would say fishing should be very good. I just don't know exactly. The cool thing about this event is there's not a game plan that has been proven throughout the years of, you gotta, like on the Toho, like, hey, you gotta go. It's very similar to Toho last year. we didn't know what to expect. Like,
Right.
is it going to be like, typically we're there, all right, the fish are spawning, you're
Yep.
flipping mats, you're sight fishing, you're fishing around spawning fish and dragging around, flipping pads. Now you're talking about fish that are mostly post spawn. Are they starting to move out offshore? Some fish are still shallow. This is a phase of their spawning season and going into post spawn that we've never fished before. And so I think that's what's so cool about this event. And what I love about going to Florida later in the year is because there's not a blueprint of how to be successful. You have to figure it out. Each and every angler is going to be sitting here like, there's not a tournament that I can look up that says
black and blue. Just throw black and blue, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is just being able to have a clean slate on a body of water that I've not had a lot of tournament history on, not fished a tournament on, and just going out there and sort of seeing how it goes. But I think, like I said, the reason why I feel like so many people have an issue with Florida is not because it's because of the cold fronts that we had always through January, February, March. It's always become tough fishing, which I don't anticipate it being that way, this next week.
What does your prep look like before you get there? I mean, are you a guy that studies maps, finds the public access information that all the anglers can, or is it, I'm going to get there, I'm going to get the feel, I'm going to, check the temperature, the weather, this. Give me a little bit of your rundown coming into Harrison in a week or so.
Yeah, I would say I'm more...
And is it always the same for any lake you go to? I mean, or is it this one changes for this? I've been there before, so I'm going to use stuff that I've known before. I mean, how do you set up your blueprint to say what to pack in the boat or to have a general idea?
So, I mean, I typically start by rigging rods. I typically start by research. I look at what any tournament results from that time of year that I can find, which there's not a whole lot on Harris Chain, but there is on other bodies of water. And then I look at what are the seasonal patterns that are sort of presented that time of year. Then I sit there and I start thinking about, okay, what do I actually have to, how do I want to fish and how do I think it's going to be won? And I think that becomes a deal. And then it's like, then I go to map study. I spend countless hours on prep. I spend countless numbers of hours map studying, researching, looking through Google Earth, looking at stuff, trying to understand a little bit more. And then last but not least, I spend a lot of time on my boat, rigging tackle, putting rods away, and then just goes through ideas. So like I'll sit there on an iPhone notes chart and I'll write a note of like all the 39 rods that I want, or 40 rods I want to rig up, or say it's 20 rods.
Right.
And I'll rig them up exactly how I want it with this pound line, this bait, X, Y, Z, to go through the scenarios of what I think might go down.
Now, do you mark each rod differently? Do you have a coding system?
No, I mean, you pretty much
just know.
Like, if you look at it, like, okay, like I do have like pound tests that I'll put on some of my rods. You'll see a little white label that I'll put on there and say 17-pound test, 20-pound test.
Gotcha.
40-pound braid.
I didn't know if you just went, oh, that's 12.
I can in a lot of ways, but like when it becomes weird is braid, because like some braid will be like 30 and like this will be 40, and this one might be like a little bit different, but it's not. So that's, I just like to have it down there, like, okay, this is fluorocarbon, this is mono, this is whatever, so on, so on, so on forth. And so that's sort of like the biggest prep. And then you get there, that way you're prepping yourself for practice. You're prepping yourself to be able to ultimately make the best decisions and adjustments throughout practice to go through your progression of different things that you ultimately think might go down. Now, a lot of times what happens is in practice, you'll sit there and go, I think this is going to be the deal. Most of the time, it's not the deal.
It's not the deal.
It's not the deal. Most of the time you sit there and you're like, well, that's not the deal, so I'm going to have to go to plan B, C, D, E. You're going to have to start making adjustments unless you start pulling all the rods. That's why when you ever see me after the first day of practice, after I pull out, I normally have like 30 rods on the deck because I'm literally going through everything that I can think of. Like, okay, all right, maybe I need for this. Maybe I need for that. Maybe I need for this. That's why, because you're just trying to figure it out.
Okay, so when you pull up, is your idea, I'm going to go and try to find them the way that I want to catch them? or that you think is the most probable way to catch them?
I would say I always fish to try to win for the most part.
That is the broadest statement I've ever. Everybody, but I mean,
what I'm saying is
what
I fish the way I think is potentially going to be won.
Okay.
You know, I have an idea in my mind of like, okay, this lake sets up like this. This is going to do this. These fish should be here. Like, I'm going to set myself up. Like, I know, like, okay, I can't go sight fish on Harris Chain in May and win the tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know, I know some stuff I can say, I'm already going to eliminate that.
Yeah, that's gone. That plan is out the window. We're not doing that. So now I'm down to
a core group of patterns. And then okay, well, that's not working real well. That's not working real well. That's not working real well. Okay, well, this is actually the best thing I got. You know, like practice for Travis did not go really well. Like I had a couple bites. I sort of got an idea. I said, well, I'll do this if I don't find anything else. I found a few other things, but didn't find anything really else. And I said, well, we're going to roll with that and sort of see how that goes. And then
throw it on the wall, see if it sticks.
And that's sort of how you have to do it, because you have to get those little clues. Like you don't want to get too dialed in practice. So that's why I just, really the biggest reason behind it. Like I go through a lot of different baits and a lot of different patterns of what I think might happen. And then I start to develop after the first day. That's when you can start to dial it in a little bit more after the first day of practice, because you go through some stuff like, yeah, this is not right. This is not good. This is not the deal. And you're like, well, I got bit on this, and this. Now let's try that. Let's try that a little bit. Try to dial that in a little bit more.
What would you say is the best technique for somebody who doesn't even have to be a tournament angler? Somebody who wants to go out there. I've heard some people say, well, if you want to get better at throwing crankbaits, that's all you bring to the lake and you figure out a way to catch them on a crankbait. What would you say are some great ways for people to improve their skill, whether they're going to be a tournament angler or not?
I think the biggest thing as an angler is you have to you try to be well-rounded. And I would say finesse tactics day in and day out will help you catch more fish, one, but also will get you out of more pinches where you put yourself in a bad position and you're like, man, I need a couple keepers or I need a couple fish to make it to the next round or the next day, or, good points for your club, or just to have a good time. So drop shot, shaky head, Ned rig, those things in my mind do more for an angler, because then they're able. Now, I don't throw those all the time.
Oh, right.
I get in trouble.
Right.
I know I have that.
It's like going to mom's house. It's a safe place.
It's always a deal that you're going to be able to generate a bite. And so that's a really big deal for me. I would say that's probably the biggest thing. Work on trying to understand each finesse tactic, and then go from there.
What was it? You'll have to excuse me if my history is a little bit off. I think it was Table Rock when you won Stage 7, 2019. Was there a Guggen Ned rig that you were using? What was it? It had rattles?
Yeah, so I was throwing a couple different baits there. I was really throwing, and I try to go through a progression of different things, but I really caught them on a drop shot most of the time. I threw a Slim Shake worm on a shaky head a little bit. I also threw a dragon drop and dropping down on those schools and getting bites. And I sort of mixed it up between a couple different things. But that was really my 1-2 punch. I also caught them on a swim bait. And that was sort of the deal. Like the finesse side of it there, they got a little bit more pressure. Now, the thing is, even I go back to Eufaula throughout my rounds, and I still picked up a drop shot with a Slim Shake, casting out on those hard spots. I could get a bite when I couldn't get a bite on a crankbait and I couldn't get a bite on a swim bait. I was able to slow down with that finesse stuff and just, there's one, and you catch one or two more.
But you wouldn't use that as like a search technique to sort of narrow it down.
No, because the problem is, I have to grab a phone charger real quick here. Okay. The problem is, more than anything, is you're not able to generate enough quality bites. That's my biggest issue with the finesse tactics. Is like
Gotcha.
you're not generating enough quality. Hold on 1 second, guys.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna make sure, grab one real quick here. But that I got. I'm walking through the dang.
Oh,
A few
what's
deer
that
over
on the
there just
wall?
hanging out. A few deer hanging out. Wait 1 second.
Wow, Lurch, we're getting a tour and didn't even know it, right?
Yeah.
What's
buddy.
that all about? Did you set that up before?
No, heck no. This is all off the cuff. It's all off the cuff.
I love it, man. Hey, look, we're gonna have to get to some of these questions in a minute. I'm gonna let y'all finish up, and as soon as you get done, it's maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 really good ones I'm gonna get posted and have Jacob address them. So y'all finish up where you're at. I'll jump back in here and we'll get these questions going.
All right. Hey, Jacob, before we get to the questions from the fans, you talked about it. Duckett Fishing, new reel available at Academy only, your signature series. Talk us through that. Now, because you said it was I think you said free spool. Is it one that a guy who doesn't have the skills to pay the bills would be able to throw? I mean, talk us through this.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is for me, I always try to have, I'm always trying to perfect things. And at Duckett Fishing, that's a lot of what it goes down to is like ultimately you're trying to put out quality products.
It's got a special name too, doesn't it? The design.
It's a Paradigm. Yeah, it's a Paradigm casting reel. It's my signature series. It's a 100 series. And the biggest thing for me is just ultimately like you can always tighten up your braking system. You can always tighten up your tension knob, all of those things. But that is allowing to have a free reel, which means it basically just easily goes off the spool,
right?
And it gives you easier. It's not restricted. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can back it off brakes wise, where you can make that cast and it just goes.
Throw it a country mile.
Very few reels on the market, and be honest with you, even are capable of doing that. So that's why for me, you see, if you have a free reel and it's a super free, like super smooth reel, you can always tighten him up and make him work for anybody.
Right.
But you cannot loosen up a reel that's not super, that can't.
Oh, yeah. I get it now.
And that's sort of what the reasoning behind it is like allowing to make that adjustment for each consumer. They're able to make those adjustments accordingly for themselves.
All right. Last question before we get to the fans. You can only have 3 baits in your boat to go catch fish. Scoreable, non-scoreable, doesn't matter. What would you send people to go pick up this, and this? Because not a lot of us are going to spend $15 on a jerk bait. They'd rather have something.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would say if I had to guess, I would say like if I had to like put through my main 3, I would say probably a jig. So like a green pumpkin jig is always a good standard deal that you have to have no matter what. Half ounce. I would say a DG6 crankbait. Like for me, a mid-depth crankbait is really good. And then I would probably go with probably an accent buzzbait for me personally. Those are the 3 that I would go with because you have a top water, then you have a jig with like a bandito bug on it, and then you have a crankbait. So you sort of can mix it up. You can fish a jig out deep, you can throw the top water up shallow. You sort of got about. You can swim a jig a little bit too, with that bandito bug on it. So you're really pretty set up with those 3.
Gotcha. I know you've had some of your sponsors for years and years, but do you remember who your first ever sponsor was?
I do. It was Basswood Saber. So Basswood Saber is a company out of Trafalgar, Indiana, and they're still a sponsor of mine.
Really?
So
that's awesome.
I've had them. I've actually been working with them since I was 12 years old.
Whoa! And did you turn 30?
I turned 30. I turned 30 last September.
Gotcha. Wow, that's a good run. That's an 18-year run.
Yeah, so like they've been always awesome. The people there have been unbelievable, and they're just good people. They make really good products. So I've been very fortunate to know all those people there.
Ricky, what do we got from the fans, buddy?
Man, Lurch, Jacob, I tell you, this has been an awesome show. I really enjoyed watching it. Y'all two are something else together. We got several really good questions, Jacob, and the first one I'm going to pop up here is from Spencer Broussard. He must be getting ready to fish Toledo Bend because he wants to know what would be one bait you would have in your hands. The water level is like 173 full pool. Is there any one bait you could tell him to throw?
I would say probably for that event, I would have a DT20. DT20 crankbait in that event for sure. Cranking probably in Texas, Louisiana. That lake's a great crankbait lake. And I actually had an event there a handful of years ago, late April, actually. And I caught him cranking the first day really good. It ended up fizzling out, but I would assume those fish are probably getting done spawning, and they should be starting to move to offshore stuff. Brush piles, offshore humps, those places. So I would say DT20.
All right. So Spencer asked another one, and I think this is a common question that a lot of people
I'm
ask.
writing that down.
When do you know whether to throw a buzzbait over like a plopper style bait, or even go as far as to talk about a popping style bait?
So like the big thing with a plopping style bait over a buzz bait. So for me, it's really two different things. It's really just cover. So if I'm around a lot of cover like wood, and even like so lily pads, stuff like that, like willow weed, I'm gonna throw a buzz bait because that bait I'm able to hook points up. It's out of the way of getting hung up on all those things. If I'm throwing a plopping style bait in those areas, I'm reeling it through there and it's getting hung up on all that grass. And that's not the best bait I can throw for that situation. So now plopping style baits and all that stuff, choppos, ploppers, all that stuff. That's when I normally tend to throw that on highland reservoirs or places that do not have nearly as much cover. So that way I can cover a lot of water efficiently, and then make the adjustments I need to.
That makes sense. All right, Randall Beecham. What made you choose the vibrating jig, and what trailer we're using? I guess at Travis is what I'm assuming.
Yeah, it came down to I sort of mixed it up. I thought I could catch them on a white jig or slim jig, but a vibrating jig for me in general just is a bait that catches big ones. And so with the fact that I figured that I had to catch quality rather than the quantity deal being up the river, I chose the vibrating jig. I actually caught him on a Lake Fork Magic Shad. That's probably one of my favorite chatterbait trailers, vibrating jig trailers. And so I've thrown that for years. I'll throw several others. I'll throw I'll throw a Gigabait's dart. I'll throw a Bandito bug. I'll throw other things as well. But I do really like that little Magic Shad as well.
And with the chatterbait and the Magic Shad, do you trim the skirt down at all?
I don't. I will sometimes depending on what's going on, but if it's super long, a lot of times I customize my skirts anyway. If I feel like it's overshadowing the action of the bait of the actual trailer, then I will. If it's not, then I'll just as long as it's hanging back far enough where I can feel like the fish are actually getting a visual of the trailer, I'll be good.
So that's a key that you probably need to look at, I would think, for sure. All right, so the next one is Riley Hendricks. We want you to talk about your faith if you're willing to do that tonight.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing is for me, like I grew up in a family that was God-fearing family, and at the end of the day, like I know, I've always had ups and downs throughout my career, and there's always been something for me, something solid. That's always been there. And so like I always know God has a plan. I always trust that. And like even that it's so crazy how that all works. It's always a reasoning behind it. Even like looking at the event last week, I did not win the elimination round to qualify automatically to the championship. The thing is there's always a reason why things happen. And normally God has a plan. And so I didn't win that I didn't win that automatic berth. Well, that allowed me to fish the knockout round, which allowed me to eliminate some things, which ultimately also qualified me to the championship. And then other anglers that were fishing some of that same stuff didn't qualify because we all were splitting fish up and they just were 1 or 2 fish out.
Yeah.
So that would have, what I'm saying is, if I wouldn't have fished the knockout round, pretty much all 3 of us would have probably never fished in very similar stuff, would have probably made the knockout round or made the championship round, and then we would have split it all up and I wouldn't have won. And so those are the things that, it's the crazy things that happen in this sport that you can't, like, I mean, there's so many things throughout my career that I can't describe like every little detail, but there's only one thing that you can really put that on, and that's just God. So I obviously am a big believer of that, and I know he's always got a plan, and so he's got to trust that.
That's pretty touching. I know you got a lot of faith. As long as you, Lurchin, you can attest to the amount of anglers that have their faith, and it does seem to make a difference at the end of the day. I'm not going to tell anybody what to believe, but I think we're all, as a collective group, all on the same page with that part of it, at least.
Absolutely. At some of the launches, Mark Rose doing church service on Sundays of the event, and it is not hard at all to get somebody to say the morning prayer. Elton Jones Jr., Defoe has been up there doing, Mark Rose, just to name a few off the top of the head. But yeah, faith is really deep with so many of our anglers, and it's great to see.
All right, Jacob, this next one is a good one. I can't wait to hear the answer to this one, and I think it's something to it. What keeps you mentally dialed in on a tough tournament day?
Well, I fish both formats. Score tracker is obviously a huge part of that on the MLF format and fishing, because at the end of the day, I'm able to know where I'm at and what the adjustments I need to make. In like fishing a pro circuit event or the super tournaments that I fished last season, in those in the 5-fish traditional, like 5-fish tournaments, I would, I think the biggest thing is just you have a goal set. Like, I know sort of what I ultimately think's going to work. Sort of, you always have a bar after the first day of competition. Like, okay, hey, there's a 20-pound bag weighed in. Hey, I had 12 pounds. I'm sitting in 18th. You have a bar set after that. The first day is always the toughest because you don't have that bar set to know where you're at. So I think the biggest thing is you have to understand that every single one of those bites is going to matter. And fishing and growing up in Indiana, and fishing Ohio waters, fishing Indiana waters, really tough fisheries. I've always, very seldom did the guys who won the tournament even have a limit. So you're talking about really having to be mentally tough and get every single bite and make it happen and make it count. And so that's the biggest thing. I always try to keep my mindset right and really focus. I mean, there's not really a trick necessarily, I would say. I think it's just something that you have to realize. I think the biggest thing would say, like, you need to fish just as hard your first 5. You just as hard your last 5 minutes as your first 5 minutes, and vice versa. You have to fish hard the whole day. You have to constantly be processing information. And I think that's the biggest thing. Fishing tough all day long. I tend to do that a lot. That first 5 minutes, fish really hard. I always tend to fish my last 5 minutes really hard. But you have to fish that whole day super tough. I think that helps you as well.
So just to add on to that a little bit, I've never really seen it with you, and Lurch, you can probably chime in on this as well. There are some anglers that tend to get spun out super easy. Is there something that you do personally that if you feel your stuff starting to go off the rails a little bit or get spun out to kind of pull yourself back in and say, wait a minute, I got this. This is what I need to do?
I don't.
Or do you ever get spun out? I mean, it doesn't seem to me that you ever do, but
yeah, I don't lose track. I mean, I do. This is the thing that you have to understand. So, like, I always will look like championship round. Okay, like I will. I'll give you for instance, Green Lake. Okay, first round I caught him, or the first period I caught him really good, and I was leading. Second period, I fell behind and didn't make the right adjustments, and I'm realizing I'm falling behind. I will burn it down on that final day to get and jeopardize getting 10th in a heartbeat to win. Like, I don't care. I will, like, I was taking off I was taking off my graphs, grabbing my console, taking the little deal off, taking my plug out of my boat to get up underneath a bridge. I didn't even know if anything was behind it. Like, I'm going to places that I feel like if they're there, or if I find them, groups of fish or places that are, secluded, that not everybody's going to fish, then I have a chance to win. So there's things like now spinning out in a regular event where you're having to fish. I don't tend to. Now, earlier on in my career, I would say I definitely did. And that became, you just had to learn from your mistakes. The thing is like, as much as you want to say, hey, listen, guys, don't do this, don't do that, you have to make mistakes in life and learn from your own mistakes. Hopefully there are not too many of them. And I think that's the biggest thing. I've had to learn from my own mistakes, and I realized that I mentally have that ingrained in my mind, like, don't do that again.
One thing I've noticed about Jacob is a lot of guys, they get to that spin out moment and they're like, man, they should be here. Man, they should be here.
Right.
Where Jacob almost has the mentality of, man, they should be here, but they're not. Let's go. And next. He doesn't seem to waste a lot of time. And a lot of it, a lot of people don't see this because if the camera's not on them or score tracker's not moving, but you have already plotted out maybe 5 other things that you can do long before this spot dries up. And you're like, okay, a couple more spots that I want to check. You've already got those background plays in play.
Yeah, I think there's always that. You always have a game plan throughout your day, but also it's something that you don't want to over plan or completely plan out your competition day too much, because what happens is then you get locked into something. So
right.
What I'll do is I tend to practice a lot in the tournament. So what I'll do is I'll have maybe, okay, I'll start here.
As long as you're above that cut line and feel safe, right?
It doesn't even matter.
I didn't know that.
So I will practice in the tournament, even if I'm not up above the cut line, because I'm still constantly looking for that next bite. So
Gotcha.
Say if I'm running down the lake and I just look over there and it looks right, and I'm like, man, that wind's blowing on that point. That should be something they're on. I didn't catch them in practice doing that. I didn't really try that much. I might stop over there on that point and fish down through that stretch.
Right.
And all of a sudden get a bite and then just roll and just trash everything else that I had and then go to do that. Like, it's just, you have to have that open mind. Like, I practice hard, but I fish a tournament way harder with an open mind than I even do practice.
Gotcha.
So
did you get a new bell? The last time you rang it was like, duh. Pete.
Oh, phone call. He's got a phone call coming in.
Oh.
Hey, it's tough for them. It's tough because, like, guys are sitting down on the bell on the cooler.
I just heard
sitting down on the bell.
I was like
smashing the bell, and so it became a deal where I had to move it around, and finally, like, it hit it. It's like, so you get sat on a couple times throughout the day.
All right.
So okay. We're getting close on our time limit here. There's several more questions. I do have a couple more things I want to ask you, Jacob, real quick. You were talking about running down the lake and keeping an open mind and seeing that bank. How much of that do you believe is intuition? Because I've heard guys talk about that many times, that, KVD just has a certain intuition of how to catch fish that you can't teach, you can't learn. It's just like there in your DNA.
I think there is a learning period of, like, sure. I think there is those people that are just get it and understand, like they understand what a fish does. They understand, but I also feel like it's knowledge too. Like, you've seen through your career so many different scenarios of, like, a lot of times it's like, man, I've caught them on a lake like this one time 5 years ago, and these conditions sort of set up similar. And that was a good pattern then. I wonder if this will play out now. Let me go hit that deal. Like, so a lot of times it's that.
Right.
I do think there is 100% that instinctive decision-making that you cannot, no matter what you do, you cannot teach that.
Right.
And it's time on the water. But I also feel like that's just there's guys that have it and there's guys that do not have that.
Right.
And,
So-
it just no matter what you do, you can't teach that. And so I think I look at guys like Foe, I look at Jordan Lee. Those are just to name a few that I feel like are super instinctive fishermen. And ultimately they ultimately make a lot of decisions on the fly, and that you just can't teach.
So I'm gonna let you guys go in just a second here, but this one guy really wants to get this question answered.
We'll
and
let him have it.
We're gonna
Let
see
him
if we
have
can
it.
do it. I'm not even gonna try. Just read the question and answer. I'm not even
So
trying.
top 3 lure colors,
Milo and
lure
Chris.
type for clearwater bass. And
Yeah, I guess it is,
South
all right.
Carolina. Well, I mean, South Carolina is a big time herring fishery. I would say obviously, the chrome top water is obviously going to be a huge deal this time of year towards the end of the herring spawn. I don't know how long that'll progress. I would say a deep diving crankbait. There, fish are going to start to pull out here. Excuse me. There's late May. They should start to pull out first week of June. A big deep diving crankbait like a DT16 and DT20. That would be another one that would be on top of my list. And then I'm going to say a slim shake worm on a shaky head. It's always a good one. You can fire it out there, get a bite. This time of year still. What happens is, like, when they get post spawn, they tend to go from you got this jig bite flipping around docks or rock or whatever in the pre spawn, and the post spawn they get to where they want more of a streamlined bait, and that's why I like that slim shake worm. I like worm, like a big mondo worm, stuff like that. That's when I start to trend on the backside to more of that streamlined stuff because it's easier. I feel like I don't know if this is not factual. This is like my opinion. And I think what it is more so than anything is the fish, I feel like they can like ultimately process that a little bit easier than like a big crawdad or something. So that's why I picked those. I picked those 3.
All right, I promise I've got really just 2 more. And
Super duper last one time.
I promise you.
Jacob, I'm sure your daughter does this. Oh, come on, Dad. Just one more time. One more
That's
time.
right. That's right. Just as bad. I can't find it now. But there's a question that wanted to know smallmouth, are they your friend or foe?
Oh, friend.
Right. That's easy.
I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, like smallmouth can be little punks, no doubt. And there's no doubt they can be.
I was a smallmouth as a kid. I'm not.
There's times they can be a little punks, but
and I still am. So okay, we're all on the same page. And then the last one, this guy Brendan Bradford wants to know if you remember him from Pickwick last year. I don't know if there's any relevance to that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, Brendan.
Well, look, guys, this has been awesome. Jacob, I'm going to kick you off here. Lurch, I need you for a couple more.
I will see you in a week and a half.
Minutes. So
I'll make dinner again.
All right, Lurch. We will see you in Harris Chain.
All right, tell
Appreciate you guys having me on.
hello.
I'm going to grab bites to eat. You'll have a great night.
Thank you, Jacob. Lurch, that was awesome. Amazing.
We could have gone for another 2 hours.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I finally have to shut it down. It's great fan interaction. Lots of people watching. It was awesome. Couple people that I need to reach out and thank. Number one, you for being on here. Hopefully we can figure this out. I think it'll be fun. I think we'll make some friends and teach some people about bass fishing.
Yeah.
Duckett Fishing, they're a huge supporter of Bass 365. So we want to give them a shout. And there was a question, and it may take me a second to find it, but me and you're going to tackle it here in a second. I wasn't even going to throw it out there to Jacob. And you talk for a minute while I'm trying to find this question. Right. That's a good one.
Well, you guys have seen me on Major League Fishing. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's LURCHMC. And make sure you guys hit bass365.com. Download their app as well. I'm sure that you could probably archive this and check it out later in case you weren't able to watch the whole thing. Excited to go to Harris Chain. Got my
here's the question, Lurch.
All right, what do you got?
I had it and I lost it again.
Come on, it's like
it's working with a rookie, man. Where is that thing at? Anyway, I'm just gonna throw it out there because I can't find it now. Somebody posted on here, and I'll let me go first. Who do you think's the most underrated fisherman in MLF? And I'm going to say all these guys are so good. And if you don't think so, just come watch them. I mean, they're guys that had bad tournaments. They're guys that have had
it's sort of a loaded question because everybody there has got an incredible resume.
Right.
I think a better way to pose the question would be who is posed for the win or is going to get momentum. I think MDJ, I think he really proved some stuff in that championship round because watching the show, it didn't seem like he was down, but I mean, he was getting, you just call them shorts, but now they're, smalls in a sense. But he stuck with it, and I thought that showed a lot of heart. Gosh, who else? Who else is due? I think Ishman Rowe is due for one on.
Sure.
Yeah, I think he is. Incredible resume, and I think it's just a matter of time before pieces pop together. And I would love to see Paul Elias really turn it up too. Legend, absolute legend.
That's right. I mean, he's God, I can remember him growing up. But overall, I think the field is as strong as any that we've ever seen. And I know you had talked earlier about the PAA, and were you at any of the Toyota Texas Bass Classics?
I have not been to one of those.
That was back when the PAA was thriving. That was something that they did every year, and they brought the best of Bass and the best of FLW together.
And won it, and then I think who won there was a team that won it too. Terry Scraggles was on one of the winning teams at the very first one.
Yeah, and I think Combs won it twice, if I remember right.
Yep.
I think that format was as close as to what Major League Fishing has today, as far as there are a lot of great anglers on both tours, and but this deal over here at Major League Fishing, there are really no slouches. They're hammers that can catch them.
Yeah, it's funny is you'll look at the results from one event, and then the guy who was in 80th, maybe it wasn't his style of fishing, and then you see him up towards the top there, and I mean, even looking at the results, some of those guys you see, it's still early. So as it averages out, one bad one great one puts you in about 40th place. But I think the dust is going to settle, and we're going to see the guys who've really got it down in 2021 sort of work it out here shortly.
So 2 more seconds with you here. I wanted to share this link. It's on Bass 365 now. It's a video we did last year with Jacob Wheeler. And, well, it really wasn't with Jacob. It was with all his roommates trying to pick their brain to find out what really makes Jacob tick. It's a very interesting video, well worth the watch.
It is an eclectic group. I actually hung out with them 2 nights at Lake Travis. Yeah.
Well, hopefully I get an invite at Harris Chain because I was.
All right, we'll see. Well, I stay in a hotel room, so whoever's got the big house and the nice kitchen, that's usually where I go and cook.
Well, guys, let me tell you, Lurch can cook. It's no doubt. I can attest to that for sure. It's pretty daggone good.
Cafe Lurche. You'll find it on Instagram. Go to lurchmc. Just lurchmc.com.
Oh. Well, man, I appreciate you being on here again. Y'all hit him up on Instagram. It's
LURCHMC. So LurchMC. Right.
And everybody's watching, you know where to find us, bass365.com. The app is in the app stores. I
hope I did good enough that I get invited back, buddy.
Yeah, I think you can be back anytime you want. We'll definitely chat some down at Harris Chain and see what we can come up with. But I told you it was going to be fun. I had a blast. I feel like I learned a few things, and we'll get this thing rocking and rolling.
Hey, I didn't get any tickets for going off the road too far, did I?
Nah, man, you kept it. All right. You kept it in. You kept it in the lanes. Good, buddy. I really appreciate it, Lurch. I'm glad you were able to be on here with us tonight, and I will talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later.
Cutting it off.